Welcome to the Real Estate Show on WGBF AM with your host, Charlie Butler. This is where you'll learn to sell your home quickly and for more money. And now, the host of the Real Estate Show, the guy who guarantees to sell your home or he'll buy it himself, Charlie Butler.
Good Sunday morning, Evansville. This is the Charlie Butler Show, the Charlie Butler Real Estate Show, and with my co-host, Evie Barr.
Good morning, Charlie. How are you?
I'm great, and those of you that haven't listened to us, let me enunciate. Well, I couldn't even say enunciate. Evie's with Waterstone Mortgage, and of course, I'm with the Charlie Butler team. And so, Evie, what's been going on with you this week?
Well, just busy with applications as always. I'm really excited this week, though, because we have Derek Dinks with us, who is our regional manager for Waterstone Mortgage.
I'm glad you said what Derek did, because I had to ask, because he comes out, he hangs out in my office when he comes out from Indianapolis. I never really figured out what he did. You know, now I know. Now I know what you do.
Now you know.
He is our sales guru.
And in all seriousness, we had Derek on today because Derek, seriously, I consider one of the more knowledgeable people in the mortgage market out there. And we're just going to get right into it because we got a lot to cover. Derek, with some of Janice Yellen's comments, can't talk this morning. Janice Yellen. Some of her comments at Jackson Hole, where she's starting to feel that the economy's in really good shape. I saw, like, just a few days ago, the vice chairman of the Fed thought we were at almost full job capacity, and the stock market's getting a little jittery about rate hikes. So, I mean, is this a big deal if you're thinking about buying a home?
It's not necessarily a big deal from the standpoint of it's going to push rates up very quickly, because it's most likely not.
But that's what everybody thinks. So why wouldn't rates go up if they raise the rates?
Well, the Fed fund rate and the Fed, they don't really have anything to do with mortgage rates. So what you're really talking about is, they call it the Federal Open Market Committee, right? There's 12 people on a committee, and they try to decide what the Fed fund rate's going to be. The Fed fund rate is basically the rate that banks charge one another to borrow money overnight. Doesn't have anything to do with mortgage rates. So mortgage rates are based on the sale of mortgage-backed securities. So they're sold on Wall Street. Those mortgage-backed securities are governed like anything else that you can buy or sell by demand and supply. So, can the Fed fund changes and some of their comments affect rates? Yes. And part of that is because the Fed and mortgage rates have a common enemy, and that's inflation. So as you see inflation come into the marketplace, the Fed's trying to cut off inflation. They have an inflationary target that they're okay with. But as it starts to get past that, because the economy's overheating and things, they start to do things that try to control that. So that being said, if there's inflation in the marketplace, that could also affect mortgage rates and start to push them up.
So in your experience, and when you do see the Fed rate go up, do you usually, even though it's more of a psychological thing, I think, for the market, as you said, because mortgage-backed securities are what really controls the rates. But do you still usually see the rate go up?
No. And, the interesting thing is that when I first got in this business, not as long ago as you necessarily, but a long
running joke now.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I tell people in the mortgage business, that's the thing, the Fed's out, and rates for mortgage rates and the Fed moved somewhat in lockstep. Now, the last 2 decades, that spread has been anywhere from 0.5 to 5.25 difference between the Fed fund rate and mortgage rates. So the two, if you put them on a graph, it's not a line graph, it's a jagged graph. So, they haven't followed in lockstep to one another. Now, one of the interesting parts about it, Charlie, and people always miss this, is that if you track rates back and you look at the Fed fund rates and you look at inflation and you look at when rates go up, everybody says, oh my gosh, rates are going to go up. What are we going to do? But rates have went up because the economy is good, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So as the economy is good and more people are working, people feel better about things, more people are out looking for homes. So yes, it does push up mortgage rates because that inflation could be on the horizon, right? But it's always happened at a time when there were more people buying homes. So it's an interesting thing to look at a graph and you look at it back over the last 40 or 50 years because you'll see rates go up, but you also see the number of people buying homes go up.
And it's funny. I mean, to hear people talk about rates going up today, when I can remember, we could talk about the 80s and the 15 and 18% rates, but I remember buying a house in the 90s, and my banker called me and said, good thing you kept your credit so good. Because I said, we'll get you an 8 and an 8. Wow. And I go, wow,
right.
What a great rate. I was strutting around. I got an 8 and an 8, and things like I remember sitting not probably 10 years ago with a bunch of top investors in this area in what was then Fast Eddie's. And we had to have lunch every day because it's so private, or every Thursday because it's so private, they could talk. And one of these guys was late. And he comes in, he said, and we won't get into names, but he said, just left one of the local banks. And he said, I got a 9.75. Now, these are all investors, so
right.
Commercial, and everybody's getting their pens out. Who do I talk to?
Right.
But the economy was so good at this time that it's all relative.
You're exactly right. So, I go back to when I first got in the mortgage business, people were marketing refinances out of the phone book. And the only question they were asking was, do you own a home?
Yeah.
Because if you did, your rate was somewhere above 12%. So, it's one of those things where generally rates are relative to the market. And by that, I mean, we haven't seen in a long time where rates restricted home buyers, right? Now, one of the things we do and one of the things that Evie is able to do for a client is that we'll calculate the cost of waiting for a client. And there is a cost of waiting. So if you're a home buyer or you're a potential home buyer and you're in the market right now, there's an actual cost to waiting till next year to buy that home. Okay. And things like what the rate will be next year goes into that. What we're going to have from an appreciation standpoint on the price of homes, if you have to pay a little bit more for it, how long you have that mortgage, your age, all these things go into it. And Evie can actually show that home buyer, hey, if you wait till next year, it could possibly cost you another $25,000. It may cost you more than that, but she can show the home buyer that calculation, and some of that goes into whether or not they want to buy now. There's a lot of reasons why people wait on the sidelines, right? And I know on the show you've talked about our Wealth Builder program, and that's really what that program was designed for, right? It's to help the buyer, the millennial buyer, right, in that age group, to keep the down payment money that they have, still build equity much faster than they would on another program, on another product or program mortgage-wise, and to get in the market now and buy housing when it's still very affordable. So it becomes an investment for them at that point.
Well, and, I'm trying to think the right way to phrase this because I don't want to offend anybody, but and I think you guys probably see, Evie, you and Derek both probably see the same thing we do when someone's out looking for a house. We always think the rate's so important. The rate is not overall to most people that important. The payment's what's important.
That's 100% right.
If they can afford X dollars, they're going to buy a house. Now, it doesn't matter if that's at 3% or at 5%.
And a lot of times, whenever I'm going to take an application from someone, it's, where do you want your purchase price to be at? And they'll say, I don't know, but I know I want my payment to be this amount.
Yeah, because we know in what we have budgeted for.
Yes.
If, for example, if they're renting now, and you guys could probably speak to this better than I could, but people are renting right now. It's just they could buy so much home. If they're renting a nice apartment, they're paying $750 in Evansville. buy a pretty nice home for that, couldn't you?
You could, and you've got to remember that, you know, a couple of years ago when the property tax changes went into place, you know, we got the 1% cap for, you know, if you own your own home for a primary residence, but rental properties and apartment complexes pay 2% to 3%. Right. So that cost went up when that happened. So rents are not going down, and they're not going to go down anytime in the near future. So you're exactly right that, I mean, I always say rates are incidental to the process. I mean, they really are. And, you know, while we're talking about rates, that's one of the other things is that if you're out there shopping right now and you've talked to a mortgage person and they've advised you in any way other than lock your rate, you're not getting good advice, okay? Rates change all day, every day. And the one thing we've seen over the last few years is volatility, right? And you'll have advice given in our marketplace where people are saying, hey, you know, I've been doing this a long time and I know what rates are going to happen. But a mortgage guy can't foresee Russia invading Crimea. They can't. No. And that made rates jump like crazy that day. By the time you call your mortgage person and say, hey, I heard something's going on in Europe, the rates move. There's nothing you can do about it. And the one thing I'll tell you about rates is they go up a lot faster than they come down. So if you're in the process of buying a home and you're in a window of a 30-day period from contract to close, you don't have time, if rates kick up because you weren't locked, to wait for the rate to come back down. You just don't. So the advice is always lock your rate. If the rate sounds good today and the payment works and the program fits your needs, you should lock that rate. And you should demand that of the person that's doing your mortgage.
Derek, most of the time you're in Indianapolis, in a bigger market than Evansville. So I'm curious. Some of the market experts, like Gary Keller, is saying now the market's going to be shifting. Not just talking about when he said that it's going to there's going to be somewhat of a slowdown, sometime in the next year, and they are some of the numbers in the luxury end. They are starting to see a slowdown a little bit. In a bigger market like Indianapolis, are you seeing any kind of slowdown at this point?
First of all, I mean, you're right. I live in Indianapolis now, but I grew up on the west side. And, if you're from the west side, you're always from the west side. So I'm still really,
man, I've been trying to resist that west side joke for a couple of guests, but
I knew you were like trying to elevate the show. So, you get a rights guy on here and,
we can help with that. Let's just get a ski for everybody, okay?
So, that would be good. I'd feel right at home,
I know you would, yeah.
So it is one of those things where all the projections that I see, and so my markets we're in Indianapolis. I have an office in Bloomington. We're right in downtown Bloomington, then here in Evansville. So I basically have the state of Indiana. And each one of those markets is a little bit different. So, our Lafayette and Bloomington markets are, they're not hugely growing, but they have a really strong constant turnover because of the universities and medical facilities. Now, Bloomington's market is up 20% this year to date. So that market's really doing good. Indianapolis is going to run into some difficulties. And one of the difficulties is that the house is on the marketplace, right? And how many lots are available for sale. So the Builders Association in Indianapolis, the surrounding area, they basically project that Indianapolis by 2021 will be about 14,000 lots short.
Really?
That includes everything currently available, subdivisions they know are coming online, potential next subdivisions, 14,000 lots, right? So one of the things that tells a person that's in the market right now is that's going to cause some difficulty in supply, which is going to push the value of homes up, right? So
yes.
Less supply. So if you're buying a house now, it's going to be worth more in the future, right? Those two things kind of go in lockstep. One of the other benefits that I see in this market and some of the other markets is that as it drives up is going to get some people that currently aren't thinking about listing their home to list their home. Mm-hmm. You may not be interested at, say, $125,000 to list your house, but when you see a neighbor got $168,000, you might be interested in listing your home. So I think there's a whole lot of things that go into the marketplace that will drive that as far as where we're going to end up homes being sold and how strong that market's going to be.
Well, and I think, bringing it back to Evansville, I think we see that in Evansville and Newburgh in the last couple of years because we're seeing, people said, maybe they had their house on the market in 08 or 2009, 2010. My house is not going to sell. I'm just going to stay here. Well, I don't think they realized how much their houses went up because the markets came back.
That's 100% right. And one of the real upsides to the market in Indiana as a whole, right, is that we never really went crazy from an upward mobility value-wise.
We didn't see that 30% a year that L.A. was, and Phoenix and Florida were seeing.
No, and so we also didn't have that far to fall.
No.
So, there are programs out there, refinance programs that were directed at not needing an appraisal to get a refinance done. We haven't done any of those in probably the last 3 years because they're not needed. So, and they're not needed because people's houses the values are back and they're actually beyond what they were before.
It really is because of the shorter supply. It's a great time to list your home. As I said, the $300,000 and under market is just super. The $150,000 to $200,000 market, we have way more buyers. So if you've got a home in that range, please give us a call. We would love to come out and look at your home, give you any ideas of what you might do, give you a market analysis on what we think it's worth. Again, call us for listings at 812-449-0050 or email us at cbutler@kw.com. Evie, some of these things that Derek's talked about, how can they get a hold of you?
They can call me at 812-463-3199 or email me at ebar@waterstonemortgage.com. You were talking about listings just a minute ago. Right now, how long are homes staying on the market before they're selling?
Again, we're back to price and condition again. I mean, you can get an overpriced home that's in average condition or lower. It'll sit on the market for a long time. But you get a home that is priced not low, but I'm talking about right in the market, what the market's doing, and you've taken good care of it. I'm not saying you have to go in and spend thousands of dollars. I'm just saying you have to use your common sense. We're seeing those homes sell in 2 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
Again, it depends somewhat on the area. As much as I hate to agree with Derek here about the West Side, if you've got a West Side home, there is just no inventory out there to speak of. Those things just fly off the market. So that's
why would you ever leave the West Side?
People move in and don't leave, and so I think it's always been an issue on the West Side to find a house that somebody wants.
That's the one market. Even in down markets, the West Side usually sells well because the people. Let's face it, the people that are on the West Side are very loyal to that part of town.
Well, and I'll tell you, Charlie, on the show, I know that Evie's talked about some of our programs, and one of the things that we do that I want to talk a little bit about is we do a program. It's called a repair escrow program, right? So a lot of people know what rehab programs and those type of mortgages are for, right? And what ends up happening in a lot of those programs is they're a little bit harder to qualify for. They're certainly more expensive. And what we do with the repair escrow is that we'll do the repair escrow along with any mortgage that we have. So it doesn't matter to us what mortgage you qualify for. And it's really to help the buyer and the seller both. So things that you could do in a repair escrow, say you got some problems with the roof and you got a person who wants to sell the house. They tried to sell it, but everybody keeps pointing at the roof problems, right? Or maybe the kitchen's outdated or the house needs flooring, those kind of things. We'll do up to 10% of the purchase price. We don't charge anything for it, whatever mortgage you qualify for. It could also help you as the seller. You got equity in your home, but you don't want to put the cash in the home because you're moving.
Right.
So, use that repair escrow as the vehicle to get the repairs done and still close. So the key to that is we're going to do the work after we close, right? So we're not going to do the work beforehand. We're going to close that mortgage. The money's going to sit in an escrow account. Client's going to have 60 days to get the work done that they want to have done to the property. And they're going to have already bought the house and moved in it, and the seller's going to already moved on.
So, Derek, does this I'm familiar with the program. We've used it. It's a great program. But just so people, people many times just like our services that we offer, when we say they're free, everybody thinks that. So does it cost them more? Is the rate higher on those programs?
No.
Is the, do you have other fees that you put in there? Anything like that?
Nope. There's no additional cost. And, think about like it's not really part of the mortgage. It's
Right.
something that we're able to do as a bank that most lenders can't do. Right. So, and, I'd ask you, when you're going through the process with a client, you do the appraisal and you have inspections done, right? Mm-hmm. So at the inspection point is usually when if there's issues with the property, those things are now going to be discussed between the buyer and seller, right?
Right.
So if a big issue comes up, what happens?
Many times if a big issue comes up and the seller doesn't have the money to pay for it, and the buyer just says, hey, we're not paying for it, deal dies. Now, the seller may have equity in that house, and the seller may say, I'd give them the money after closing, because that's when I would have the money. So what you're saying in this case, that they could do that.
That's right. And they could go ahead and set that money aside, and we go ahead and close the mortgage. There's an upside for the buyer, too, because now they're picking the contractor. They get to see the work that's done. It wasn't work that was done before them. They get to decide who's going to do that work. They can pick somebody that they trust. So, from our standpoint, we don't care when we find out about the repair. You could list the property with the repair escrow. We can find out 5 days before closing something came up on the inspection, and we'd accommodate that. It'd still be closing. It wouldn't cost them any additional money. It's really a solution, which is what we are. We're a solutions lender.
And the best part of the repair escrow is it can work with any loan. So whether they're financing as a conventional, the wealth builder, the USDA, a VA, or an FHA, the escrow is separate from the loan program. So we're able to use it on any financing.
Yeah, and this is great. So again, as we said before, so we can get you these guys. Let's get a house. Those of you that are looking for a house, give us a call. Our buyer's agents, 812-430-1708. If you're looking to list a home, as Derek just said, and some people don't think of this, you could list an escrow or repair allowance right there.
You could. And, it's understandable that if you're thinking about selling your home, that you wouldn't want to put $10,000 or $15,000 in repair. Right. But depending on where you're at from an escrow or from what you owe on the property standpoint, you may be willing to put some of that money up. We've had deals where the buyer and seller split it because they just want to get closed. Everybody's looking to move forward. And that's what it really is. It's just a way to accommodate the buyer and seller and get work done on the property. And, now the person that moves in there, the house is everything they want it to be. I always tell I think it's a funny story, but it may not be, that it's if it was my wife and I, we moved in, we didn't fix the kitchen. That's all I'd hear about until I fixed the kitchen. So,
yeah, that's true.
It might be a little bit better to go ahead and get that done up front, and you can live happy in your new home.
That is that always does help keep the peace right there.
That's exactly right.
The escrow program. I know we talked a lot. We talked a lot about the wealth builder, but it's just not all you guys are about, though. I mean, you can do just pretty well any loan that's out there.
Yeah, I would say that we are probably the most wide-ranging lender there is in the state of Indiana. And, I'm sure there's mortgage people that listen to your show that wouldn't necessarily enjoy hearing me say that, but that's the truth. I mean, We sell to probably 20 different investors. We keep loans ourselves. A lot of people in the marketplace will tell you they're a direct Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac lender. And, you get approved by Fannie and Freddie, but whether or not you actually sell loans to them directly is a question for some lenders. We do. That gives us some ability to do things that other lenders cannot do. So, can we make an exception to timeframes from the standpoint of how long you have to be out of a bankruptcy or how long you have to be away from a short sale? Yes. Depending on what the circumstance is, we'll make exceptions for that on a borrower where we feel like everything else is strong on that client. So we're really set up so that if you come to us, you're going to end up with a lender that's going to find a solution for you. And, there's a possibility that you can't buy right now.
Right.
And that's okay. We're going to give you some advice.
You're still my next question. Okay.
Okay. Well, see, did I go too fast?
Yeah, and I was going to ask Evie too. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can take a breath, maybe. Okay.
That doesn't happen very often, Charlie.
But no, for either one of you, whoever seriously wants to take is, we get these calls, and hey, there's realtors that don't. But when I was on my way here, I got a call from a guy. He said, I want to write an offer on a house in Mount Vernon. I said, okay. He said, I already seen the house. He said, I know it. He said, I've called 3 realtors. I can't get them to call me back. He said, will you write the offer up? Well, duh. Yeah. So, but yeah, so where I'm going with that, you guys, we hear the same thing. We over the years, we referred to a lot of mortgage brokers. And at different times, mainly always refer you guys now, but long before I knew you, and people call me and say, well, they're not calling me back. I know it's only a $80,000 house, or I know I've got a credit problem. That it's going to take a little while. But Evie, you're going to get back with those people, aren't you?
Definitely. And a person's home is their home. It's such an important investment. You've got to be able to walk through it with them. Everybody wants to be communicated with as to what's going on in the process. If they aren't ready to buy right now, I'm not a credit counselor, but we can look and truly see what's on their credit report. And if they have things that need to be paid off, we know that they need to be paid off. We'll be upfront with them, but we want to make the process as easy as possible. And whenever Derek was talking about Waterstone Solutions, I've always worked for a bank in the past, and I do still work for a bank today with Waterstone, but they offer such a wide range of solutions for both buyers and sellers and realtors that they're very open-minded as to what's going on in the marketplace. And it's not on the conservative level where you have to have excellent credit and 20% down to get a mortgage done. We have so many lending options that if someone has been told no, we still might be able to help them.
And guys, we're down to a minute. Derek, first, seriously, thanks for coming down. But any thoughts you want to leave us with?
No, I appreciate you having me on, Charlie, and we love working with you. And Evie hit the nail on the head. We are going to find a solution for a client. We want to help you realize the dream of owning a home.
And that's great. And these guys are great to work with. One more time, Evie, how can they get a hold of you? They don't want to talk to Derek. Okay? He actually wouldn't know what to do with these days. Okay.
Derek would have you call me.
Yeah. Okay.
My office number is 812-463-3199 or email address at ebar@waterstonemortgage.com. And if someone's wanting to list or sell, Charlie, how do they get a hold of your team?
They can get a hold of my team at, they can either email us at cbutler@kw.com. They can call me at 812-499-7758, which is my direct cell. If they want to talk to one of our great listing agents, Deanna Herm or Jamie Keller, 812-449-0050. Our buyer's agents, Darren Albin, Abigail Cole, Mindy Malinsky, and our great commercial agent, Justin Long. They can reach them at 812-430-1708. And if you guys want, it's your show, let Evie or I know what you want to hear about. Evie, I'll see you next week.
Sounds great.
Okay. And for Derek Danks, and Evie Barr, this is Charlie Butler, and everyone have a great Sunday.
You've been listening to The Real Estate Show on WGBF AM with the guy who guarantees to sell your home or he'll buy it himself, Charlie Butler. Join us every week at this time to find out how to sell your home quickly and for more money. For more information, email cbutler@kw.com or visit charliebutlerteam.com.